You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. What's going on with the LSU defense is maddening, perplexing. It's so many things that are, in one breath, easy to explain. It's, well, you don't really have the personnel that you did at one point, especially in the secondary. But it's also confounding. It's hard to explain how it could go from what it was for so long, this dominant unit, to literally the worst defense in the SEC and one of the worst in the country. How? What is going so wrong for this team defensively?
Man, I've watched them every week, and, Missouri did a good job. Their quarterback threw it around, and they, a big fourth quarter for LSU, and that's what Jayden's been able to do that regularly offensively. You know what? I go through the same thing, and I go back and watch the USC Trojans are the exact same, Matty. Score on anybody, home run hitting, playmaking quarterback, weapons on the perimeter and speed, and can't get out of their own way on defense. So I sit there and look and say, okay, not fit for SC, and I think it's part LSU. What are we used to for LSU football? Obviously, they're back, and they always have that guy who's the defensive back who is a shutdown guy or two. Well, and in the past, it's always been they can wear you out running the ball, and their front seven is going to destroy you. They're fast, sideline to sideline, but they're physical in the interior. Now, you can be physical, but if you don't tackle at the second level, you got no shot. If your secondary is leading the team in tackling, then there's too many extra runs where first contact, 6, 7. I find that with USC too, 6, 7 yards down the field. Missing tackles is a problem, which means you're either technique, not sound, and it's hard to do technique and mechanics, Matty, once the season starts because you're so concerned about game plans, you can't stop down and teach your quarterback or your mechanics or linebacker. You're constantly reminding them, but you don't get to stop down for an hour to drill and practice and break down and do the drill like you did in camp. Why? Because you got to put a game plan. You only get so much time with the kids. Now, there's got to be an onus on a guy that when you're sitting there and you have outside arm free and you decide to be a hero and dip underneath on outside contain, and what do? Bounce and set you up. That's on you. The design was fine. Now there's also part in time where you say, well, is this talent match what they're trying to do defensively? Alex Grinch at USC is going through the same thing. I mean, the parallels are frightening. National championship schools that have a chance, and both defenses are going to prevent them from playing in the Final Four. And SC's undefeated. They have not lost a game, and they're scoring at will. But Washington and Oregon, and they got to play Utah. They got to go to Notre Dame. I mean, I'm like crazy. So I look at LSU in a difficult conference too, saying, okay, how do you get stops as you go along if you can't mechanics and work on it? Well, the third grade style is alignment and assignment. First and foremost, be in the right spot. You can't be out of spot 2 yards because they will exploit it. You see it on special teams. Guy gets out of his lane, somebody goes right to that lane the next time. The same thing on defense. Talent's different. Physicality up front seems to be, to me, a big part of it. Because I've noticed the same thing's happening in Southern Cal. In their physicality. I look at UCLA crosstown. They're killing it defensively. Why? They can run, but they're physical and they're not missing tackles at the second level. LSU is. And there's also this thing, and I don't know, Matty, I'm trying to take it to because it is maddening for me, and I'm sure it is for you and LSU fans both. And I'm thinking, don't waste this with these offenses. And you know what else it is? At some point in time, you start to wonder if you remember that Life cereal commercial, let's get Mikey, he'll do anything? Remember that, Matty? Yeah. I feel like with my Trojans, and I see a hint of it with LSU now, the hypersensitive to USC, but LSU, as you know, it's kind of an adopted second team for me, has been for quite some time, is you can't rely on Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams every single week to bail your ass out. Yeah. At some point in time, they're going to have to win a 20-17 game. And right now, I'm not sure. I'm talking about against a really good team. I'm not sure LSU and USC can. I know they can score on anybody and from the locker room and parking lot. But missed tackles, scheme got to match up with the personnel. If you're a man team and your corners can't cover, your slide backs can't cover, you're screwed. If you're a zone team and you don't know how to get to your spot and be disciplined enough to stay there, and in the run game fit, you got to fit the backside run game. You got to fit where you're supposed to be. If it's a runaway and you got to alert the inside or outside zone cutback, you better be there. What happens is you get the hero syndrome, guys chase, bam. They know this. These guys study this. So the similarities are eerie. The lack of physicality, getting pushed around by teams that shouldn't, the inability to make a tackle, and you're giving up the home run. They're getting big plays against them, just like the Trojans. And there seems to be this sense of it's okay, that guy will bail it out, meaning Jayden and Caleb Williams, and neither one of them will be playing in the Final Four or for a championship in their conference if this defense continues. But both of them should be in contention because their quarterbacks are freaky good.
Before I get to the quarterbacks, one follow-up on defense. You mentioned three things. You mentioned missed tackling, you mentioned defensive design, and you mentioned talent. Those are all three things, Sean, we've talked about plenty here over the last month. When you watch
physical, Matty, especially where you guys live, you better be physical in the SEC. And I'm not just talking about run around and the guy catches the ball and you unload on him in a second. I'm talking about you take on your guy, shed him, and you create a new line of scrimmage in the backfield where you're thumping and knocking the piss out of somebody. That's what has to happen. And my team at SC is not doing enough, and I can tell you I've watched probably 90% of the LSU snaps this year, and they're giving away home runs and easy plays way too often and too many big plays, and they don't seem like the LSU I know that when you played them, you came out bloody-nosed. My Trojans are the same. There's plenty of five-star players on both, four-star players. The problem is they're not bloody in enough noses than other teams are, and that's why every week the other team's in it, even if they're inferior talent on the field.
Which is the primary culprit, Sean? The tackling, the design, the talent, the physicality. Which is the primary culprit? Which is able to be rectified? I guess the question I'm really asking, Sean, is you're halfway done with the season.
Right.
What is a realistic expectation of how much better this LSU defense can get?
Matty, I'm looking at this point of the season. It's like on the other side. When your offensive line's not physical, do you think I can wake up in Game 7 and all of a sudden they turn physical? So that you can't. So what you got to do as a play caller is design a way to help them be more physical, whether that's fitting somebody else in the run game, taking the chance that you're going to bring somebody down. But when you run into that, if you miss, there's no second level. Or if you get a good passer, if Jayden's playing against LSU's defense and you don't get to him, their secondary is not the same as it's been with their superstars in the secondary in the past. So the easiest to fix, it's hard to fix mechanics in the middle of a season technique. It's hard to fix physicality. I think that's part DNA. Are you nasty or are you not? And if three guys are nasty and 8 aren't, or if 8 are and 3 aren't, I can't hide that many defenders in a big game. I just can't hide them. I can hide one. I can hide a defensive tackle who's shifty and gets it there and gets pushed around. I can hide him a little bit. I can hide a tight end who's not a great blocker with a chip and some help. I can't hide multiple. I can't have one great offensive lineman and 4 that are average and not physical. I'm eventually going to get exposed. So for me, the best, I don't coach effort. I don't think that we should have. I'm hoping there's effort on both our teams and doing it. It looks to me like there's effort. Yeah. The number one thing to fix, Matty, and I'm being serious about this, is one, you got to study the opponent harder and see tendencies. You just, as a player, not just a staff. And secondly, you get lined up right. If you're in cover 2 and you're the half-field safety, you got to get to your half-field. They can't throw a hole shot because you're late. You got the first way to start is 3rd grade Swickley, Pennsylvania Pop Warner football. line up in 2 deep, and if you got the flat, your corner, you take care of the flat and do what you're supposed to do. Don't retreat so much so I can get a flat route thrown there when you're supposed to be there. And you wrap up and tackle. I think we're also at a time when everybody wants a knockout shot.
Yeah.
And these athletes are too good to give you one on a regular basis. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, because I know that the teams I've watched, LSU and SC, they are the good plays. They are not in position to, catching a tackle, not a catch and a 15-yard run and a tackle. You got to be better. And if both teams don't shore up defense, and LSU and their conference and the way the Pac-12 is playing, unfortunately, they're going to come up shy and waste 2 of the best quarterbacks in the world right now.
My guy with a Swickley, Pennsylvania drop. Population.
That's a Chuck Knox-ism. Chuck Shea. My rookie goes, Sean, you think this is 5th grade Swickley, Pennsylvania? So I've used it for 30 years.
Population 3854, 3,854.
There you go, brother.
There it is. I can guarantee you this, Sean. In 13 years of this show and like literally thousands upon hours of broadcasting, that is the first Swickley, Pennsylvania reference.
And
ever.
You know what?
Hat tip.
I couldn't locate Swickley on a map. I just go by what Chuck Knox told me. And guess what? I'm never going to be the first or the MVP at anything. So if I'm the first on this show with all the great guests you've had, I will take the Swickley pencil. I'll try to come up with a wealth of useless knowledge every week, man. There you go.
you nailed it with Swickley.
There you go, brother.
All right, last thing I did want to ask about Daniels and Williams is it fair to say Jayden Daniels is playing like the best quarterback in college football right now?
I think there's a team picture with that one. There's no doubt he's playing the best in his conference. And as you start to move west, in Michigan, J.J. McCarthy's a good football player, but they don't rely on him with the arm as much. But they're scary. I'm starting to watch the kid at Georgia play better football. He looks like he's got something going right now. He's a good player. I think really I'd take Jayden from where we are, east and south, and bring him over and say Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, and Jayden Daniels. The Bo Nix is playing some good football. We can go around, like I said, J.J. McCarthy. You will be hard-pressed to find anybody playing better football. And it's 6 and 1/2 dozen the other. Jayden kills you two ways. Auburn's got a pretty good defense, but he kills you two ways. Caleb beats you two ways. And Michael Penix can throw it all over the lot. Bo Nix beats you a couple ways. But for my money, if you're going bingo, bango, bongo, it's Caden. It's Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, and Michael Penix, and you can mix and match however you want what you're looking for. He's in if we're talking Mount Rushmores or team pictures of performance this year, he's been one of them because he's got a lot of pressure to carry, and he seems to do it every week at the most important times. But so are Penix and so are Caleb Williams. So those three teams and those three quarterbacks, and there's a big reason why they're still successful because the three guys that are pulling the trigger for them are pretty damn good.
Can you imagine if Jayden had stayed at Arizona State? Think about that quarterback conference if Jayden were still there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And guess what? 2 weeks ago or so, we would have got beat at Arizona State if Jayden was the quarterback. No disrespect to Pine. Yeah, I can imagine. I saw him as a freshman.
Yeah.
With that lineup of quarterbacks, you talk about a gauntlet. Good, great. It's bad. It's tough enough how it is. Now you want to add that guy to the mix? No, you keep him there until we only have to meet him at some big championship caliber game. But, yeah, he's special, man. And, Matty, he's made as good as he was as the season went on last year. The quantum leaps that Jayden Daniels made in pushing the ball down the field, what a great get for LSU. It's been phenomenal.
He's been great.
Last 2 years.
Always great to chat with you. He's Sean Salisbury on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. Y'all give him a follow. Be sure you check out Pro Sports Fans as well. Download the app. Check it out. Pro Sports Fan. Download the app. Check it out. Sean, we appreciate it, man. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, buddy. I always appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.